Commissions are a really great way to start making money as an artist, but you may be asking yourself a few questions like, where do I find clients and how much should I charge, and is my art even good enough? Fear not, I was once in your shoes, but after years and years of doing both personal and corporate clients, I am here to share all that I've learned on my journey. We will answer some frequently asked questions so you can have an idea of how to execute this in your own creative practices. So just a quick introduction, my name's Andrea and I'm the artist behind Coco Michelle Illustrations, and I have been doing commissions for the past 3 or 4 years. Actually, I've been doing them a lot longer than that, I just didn't know what they were. But I had so many questions when I wanted to start taking commissions seriously, so hopefully this video is very comprehensive and we can dig into all the burning questions that you have on your heart. Starting off with the most important one, which is your art even good enough? Now you may think these feelings of self-doubt might be silly or not even worth mentioning in a video like this, but this question is probably a top reason that's holding many of you back. But I'm here to put your mind at ease because the short and simple answer is yes, your art is in fact good enough. Art is one big gray area that has plenty of room for all of us, and more importantly, a market for all of us. Even if you are very early on in your art journey, there are people who are willing and eager to hire you for their next project. So don't let your insecurities block your coin. However, I will say the more that you practice and develop your art skills, the more you will be able to charge your clients in the future, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But for right now, be confident in where you are in your art journey and know that you are worthy of offering your services to potential clients. Now, speaking of these clients, where on earth do you find them? Potential clients are everywhere. Whether it be friends and family, business owners, or brands, there is a need for art in everything. Now, there are two approaches that you can take when trying to find clients. There's active methods, and then there are passive methods. Now, I can tell you right now, passive methods typically are the goal for most creatives, but if you're outgoing and enjoy meeting new people, then active methods might be your jam. Active methods require you to reach out and actually talk to people, which I'm out. You can do this by DMing folks on social media, or maybe participating in a local art fair and handing out your business cards. Whatever your method may be, it does require you to put a lot of time into actually attracting clients. And that's time you could be spending on doing something else, like making more art. But I still recommend this as a great option, especially if you are new and haven't built up much of an audience yet. So what are some passive methods? These methods allow you to attract leads passively without you having to initiate conversations with each client. Social media has made it a lot easier for us to be able to share our work with a large volume of people all at once and be able to build a community of people who enjoy what we create. And as you may have learned, often the hard way, building an audience is no easy feat. It takes a lot of time and effort to be able to do so. I still think it's really important to show up and start building an audience on social media. And there are so many platforms that you can literally pick ones that you enjoy, which will make it a lot easier for you to stay consistent even when things are slow. I know for me, when I started my account, I had like 100 followers for a really long time, and I'm pretty sure I knew 99 of them personally. But the thing about social media is your efforts get compounded. So the more that you show up, the more that you stay consistent, once the ball gets rolling, it builds up great momentum and it kind of self-perpetuates. So if you can get onto a platform that you enjoy, that you can stay consistent on, you can develop an audience. If you want to learn more about how to build an audience as an artist on social media, I have a really in-depth video where I show you how I was able to grow my community, and I'll link it in the card above. But if you manage to figure out how to grow an audience on social media, and it by no means has to be a big audience, you will start to see a more consistent flow of potential clients in your inbox. Make sure that your bio clearly states that your commissions are open, and make it super clear on where you want people to contact you for any inquiries. I personally prefer email, but I know a lot of people are really successful by keeping their communication within the platforms using direct messages. Another great way to find clients is to set up an account on websites like Fiverr or Etsy, where you can list your services in their marketplace. I like these options because it increases your chances of being discovered, because these websites are already investing millions of dollars to generate traffic to their site, which takes some of that pressure off of you. This will allow you to focus your energy on making highly optimized shop listings and pages that are compelling to potential clients. But however, one of the things I don't necessarily love about these platforms is that you have to set your price for commissions upfront. Setting a fixed price for a commission is tricky because the level of complexity per request is drastically different. So to say that you will do commissions for $50, whether you're going to be drawing one person or 5 people, if there's a background or not, you want to use use it to make money for themselves. There's just a lot of different factors that go into each personalized commission. So to have a one price fits all model is a little bit tricky. But if you're just getting started and you want to use these platforms, here's what I would recommend. To avoid being taken advantage of, be very, very clear in how you describe what the client will be getting with their purchase and stick to the script. Listen, clients will be tempted to tack on a few little things here or there that they don't think are a big deal, but it is in your best interest to set firm boundaries. It may also be in your best interest to add upgrade listings that clients can purchase for an additional fee if they have anything that they would like to add on that is not included in their original commission package. So now that we have figured out where you can find potential clients, let's talk about how to transition a potential client into an actual client. Listen, if anyone gets you, it's me, okay? We are artists, not salespeople. So how are we supposed to get a potential client to want to sign on the dotted line? So here are some tips that I have found helpful when I'm trying to lock down a client. Communication is everything, and I mean everything. You cannot over communicate in this situation. Being very responsive and attentive is going to build a lot of trust between you and your potential client. And it will show them that you're taking this seriously. Because I think that one thing artists get a bad rep of is that we're kind of loosey-goosey, okay? You know, and yeah, we are free spirits and all, but we know how to get it together and be professional, and this is the time to turn it on. And also being very upfront and vocal about what your client can expect throughout this process will alleviate the possibility of any miscommunication down the road. Keeping miscommunications to a minimum is the goal. So to combat that, what do we have to do? Talk. I cannot emphasize this enough. There are so many things that I could have avoided in bad client relationships if I was able to communicate effectively. So please, if you learn anything from this video, communicate. Next, show examples of your work, as many examples as possible. If you haven't made paid commissions before, then you can easily create examples specifically to show potential clients, but you need to give them a visual representation of what you are capable of and what services you are offering. They need to have a clear understanding of your art style and what capabilities you have. If you draw anime style, you do not want to be hired for a hyper-realism piece where you're both going to be super frustrated with the outcome. Also, if you specialize in a specific subject or material and mediums, you need to make that clear as well. Letting your client know up front that you only draw people or you don't draw animals or that you only do digital pieces, etc., it will make the process a lot smoother. And I beg and I plead, please do not take on a project in uncharted territory. Your reputation is everything in this game, and you don't want to tarnish because you thought an oil painting of your client's Aunt Martha sounded easy enough. Next, ask questions. Asking the right questions will help you decide if you are even the right fit for this project. I know it's tempting to want to make yourself the right fit for the project, but trust me, you are doing not only yourself a disservice, but the client as well. Understanding timelines, end use, preferred color palettes, etc. will ensure that you are prepared for what you're signing up for. This is also a great opportunity for you to see if you and your client are compatible. Client compatibility makes or breaks a project. A bad client experience can leave you drained and discouraged from taking on any more new clients in the future. And then my last tip to really lock down a client is to take control. I've used this tip with not just individual clients, but as well as corporate clients. And when I tell you it is a game changer, when you take charge, it allows the other person to be off the hook and they will start to follow your lead. And where are you leading them? To your bank account, bro. Being confident and being in charge will put your client at ease, and you want this to be as easy for them as possible. Oftentimes, especially when you're just starting out, this will be your client's first time ever commissioning someone. So they're gonna be unsure and need a lot of guidance and leading from you. Even if this is your first commission too, you are the expert in this scenario, so you need to take the reins. So keep the IDKs and the self-deprecating jokes in the group chats and out of the client conversations. You got this. But one of the biggest factors that will determine who becomes a client and who will ghost you and pretend that they never even knew you existed for the rest of eternity is your rates. Well, I feel nervous. I don't do this all the time. It's just something about money and art. It just feels funny. And when I first started off, it literally gave me the ick. I could not talk about money. I was like, I do this because I love it. I will starve. As a grown woman, as a wife, as a mother, yeah, we don't go hungry around here. So let's talk about the money. How much should I charge is a loaded question. Okay, there's a lot of different factors that need to be considered when you are setting your rates. So let's talk about them. First thing you want to consider is the time/complexity of the project. Consider how long it's going to take you to complete this project. And in order to be able to understand that, you need to understand the complexity of the project. Knowing exactly what you're going to draw up front before you give a rate is very important. We all draw different things and are in different places in our journey. So what's complex for me may not be complex for the next person. So this is something that you personally have to evaluate for yourself. Having a lot of characters, having background elements and text, all of those things make a piece much more complex and are going to require much more time for me to complete. Also, when you're considering how much time it takes you to complete, please do not forget your client communication, whether it be sending emails, reference images, revisions, refining the piece. All of that goes into how much time you are spending, because if you are communicating with your client, that means you're not doing something else that could be making you money. Next thing is materials. I fortunately am a digital artist, so I don't have to use a lot of materials. I do factor in a couple of dollars for any of the subscriptions I use to complete it. So the software I use to manage my client relations, which is HoneyBook, is a subscription that I pay for, so I'll throw a couple dollars in for that. But if you are a painter or you draw original pieces on paper, then you want to consider all the materials that you're using to create that final piece. Next, you want to consider the end use of the piece. So if you are creating something for a client, you need to know what their intentions are with that piece once you complete it. If it is something that is going to be hung up in their home and it's just for personal use, that's great. No additional steps needed in that process. But if they have any intentions of repurposing it, especially for business use, then you need to have a conversation. If your client wants to use this as a logo, they want to put it on products for resale, they want to publish it in a book, then you need to have some sort of conversation about ongoing payment, which is usually in the form of royalties, licensing fees, or things of that nature. Things that I, as an internet artist, are not qualified to necessarily give you guidance on. But I will have resources linked down below on where I found information for these kinds of commissions and how to appropriately go about them. But do not charge $50 for somebody to be able to take your art and then use it however they want to make as much money as they want for as long as they want. Don't do it. And then lastly, experience. So like we talked about in the beginning of the video, how much experience you have, how much you have refined and developed your art style allows you to charge more for your work, because there's going to be naturally more demand for your work. Being well seasoned allows you to get more professional kinds of jobs that have much bigger budgets. And that's a lovely incentive to keep you motivated to continue drawing and developing your skills and getting your art to a place where you can book these gigs that will pay you thousands and thousands of dollars for what you create. What I did was I gradually increased my price over time. Once I saw that there was a noticeable shift in the quality of my artwork, I would raise my price by about 10 to 15%. This will help keep that imposter syndrome at bay, so you're not just one day waking up and raising your prices by 50% and then giving yourself a goddamn heart attack. But it's important that you are honest with yourself and that you're asking for a wage that is not only fair but is deserved for the art and services that you are providing. So starting off, I was charging like $50 flat rate for custom illustrations for me. I hated it, and it made me not want to take on any clients for quite a bit of time. Now my commissions start at $250, and that would be a very basic illustration, and my rates have gone up into the thousands, especially when we're talking about working with corporate clients. So that is one of the beautiful things about commissions, is that there's always room upwards for you to grow and expand, to get better at art, and to be able to charge more for your worth. So I do like that about commissions, but you will notice as artists become more well known and have more work experience that commissions are one of the first things to go, because at a certain point your time reaches a value that is unrealistic to be able to charge an individual for a piece of work. And what I mean by that is when you get to a certain level in your art career, you have a lot of different opportunities, and by taking on a commission, that means you're saying no to another opportunity, and that opportunity could be something that was $2,000 to $5,000 to $8,000 to $10,000. So if you're saying no to projects that are thousands of dollars, then you need to make up for that money somewhere, and to put that burden on a personal client no longer makes sense. You'll see a lot of artists as they grow drop commissions because it just makes a lot more sense. And to be honest, commissions, when you have to work with a lot of different people, can become very overwhelming and not very fun at times. So it tends to be the first thing to go. But I stand by the fact that I think commissions are kind of like a rite of passage into an art career. It's the way so many of your favorites have gotten started, and I think that it gives you so many of those soft tools that will enable you to be able to grow much faster in your career in other areas that you don't necessarily gain from just drawing for your own enjoyment, if that makes sense. So the last thing that I think is really important to talk about when speaking about commissions are contracts. Having terms that both parties agree to upfront before any money or art is exchanged is not negotiable. No, you are not going to come sit in Coco's Academy and walk out of here and not have contracts signed before you start doing work. We're not doing it. This is the way that the artist and client can protect themselves. Having a written, legally binding document is the way to protect yourself and to ensure that you do not get screwed over in this deal. Similar to the licensing and royalty fees, I am not qualified to give you legal advice, but I will also link the resources I use for my contracts in the description down below. And I'll also go over some things to consider including when you are drafting up your terms. Your rate should definitely be included in there, as well as any payment terms. So if you're asking for a deposit or full payment up front, if you want to be paid within a certain amount of days of the contract being signed, all of that should be included in there. So for example, I require 50% upfront at the time of signing the contract, and then the remaining 50% needs to be paid within 5 days of the approval of the final piece. I also do not release the final piece to the client until that final payment has been cleared. Go on and add that to your contract too. Include the time frame that you will be completing this piece. So if you guys agree to 2 weeks, make sure that it says within 2 weeks of this date, this piece will be completed. Now, mind you, and again, I can't get too technical, but there are different things that could impact when the piece will get completed, including client responsiveness. So in the contract, I have a clause that says that my client has 3 business days to respond with any feedback to any drafts that I send over. This motivates the client to keep the project moving. Very often things get dragged out way longer than they need to, and it's because of a response time. So having that conversation up front about when you expect responses and feedback will just encourage the conversation to stay flowing. I also include how many rounds of revisions are included and the fee that will be associated with any revisions that are outside of the allotted amount. What I experienced early on in my commission career is that people would give feedback kind of piecemeal, a little bit here, a little bit there, and it just made the process a lot more frustrating and slow and heavy. So by saying like you get 2 rounds of revisions, if everything needs to be super clear and concise in one email, once you send that email with that feedback, that is considered one revision completed. Making sure your client is very involved from the initial sketch to the final piece will also improve your chances of creating a final piece that is exactly what they envisioned. I know for me, like I just want to go hide in my dungeon, draw something, come back out and say ta-da, but that does not do you any favors. So putting in your contract that you will see a sketch phase, you will see a flat color phase, and then you will see a final draft phase, and you are allowed to give X amount of feedback in each round of revisions. That will make sure that you are crossing the finish line with a final piece that's a winner. And the last call out for contracts is who owns the rights. This is a super important part of the contract because who owns the rights to the completed piece means everything. If you release the rights to the client and say, this piece is now owned by you, you own the copyright, you can do as you please, you have cut ties with that piece entirely. They can do with that art as they please without running anything by you or asking for permission. It is theirs, they own the rights. Making sure you have something in there that states, I as the artist, Andrea, retain the rights to this piece means that they can't do whatever they want with that piece. So especially somebody who's like, yeah, I'm just hanging this in my house. There's no reason for you to release the rights to that because they're just hanging hanging in their house. If somebody wants to use it for business purposes, you may say you can have the usage rights to this for a year or 2 years, and at the end of that term, we come back and we renegotiate the rates. And that also links back to the licensing and royalty fees that we discussed earlier. So usage rights, if you're going to do any research on contracts, make sure that you have good information on this. I will be sure to include some resources on usage rights in the description below as well. So that sums up what you need to know before you start offering art commissions. I hope this video was helpful. I try to make it as comprehensive as possible. If anyone finds it helpful, I can actually walk you through my workflow, and I can show you exactly what I do to onboard new clients and what it looks like from start to finish of a commission piece. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.